Hello, I'm Adam from WhatCulture.com, and as you may remember, back in January we attended the 5-Star Wrestling promotional show. We interviewed a bunch of wrestlers. We interviewed Justin Gabriel, John Morrison, and of course AJ Styles. We actually interviewed about double that amount of wrestlers, including Colt Cabana, Kid Fight, Carlito, and of course Jay Lethal. But unfortunately, we sort of lost the card that those interviews were on. Shame, shame, shame. But the good news is, we found it, hooray! So a couple of months late, apologies to all the wrestlers involved. Here are the interviews from 5-Star Wrestling. Take it away.
Hi everyone, welcome to WhatCulture.com. My name's Kenny McIntosh. I'm joined by my arch nemesis, the Daniel Bryan to my Roman Reigns, sadly. It is Adam Blampied.
Ding.
And I'm also here with my personal friend, Colt Cabana, who I did a Q&A show with a couple of years ago, and we're still firm friends. Hi, Colt.
Old Braggy McBraggerton. Oh, I did a Q&A.
Just try to build the rapport, mate. Build the rapport.
Yes, we are old chums and doing amazing. Yes.
We did the contract signing with Grado back in the day.
Oh, we did a lot of things. Should we list it off? I mean,
No,
we had lunch. I met your mom. How did I meet your mother? We'll never know.
She still wants you to call, but that's another story. So anyway, before we start, we've been asking everyone to do, have they seen the Hulk Hogan Wrecking Ball video in a thong? You have seen it. So...
You look so surprised by that.
The only one we've asked who's actually seen it before.
So, thoughts?
I've got my finger on the pulse of pop culture. Yes. My thoughts on that?
Just like thoughts on him doing it, why he did it, and just the sort of impact it's going to have on society.
Well, here's the reality of it. I mean, remember when a lot of people were thinking the same thing. Like, it's hard to knock Macho Man Randy Savage now because he's passed. But when he did the rap album, a lot of people were like, "What are you doing?" And the answer is somebody obviously got in his ear, was like, "Oh, Randy Savage, you need to be a rap star." And he's like, "Okay." Same thing with this. Like, someone was like, "Hey, Miley Cyrus on a wrecking ball is pretty cool right now." And Hulk's like, "Yeah, all right." Someone's in his ear, and they made him do it. And, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts on it. He's like 72 years old, It's not like he knows what's going on. So, like, that's just what happened.
It's the way he slaps his ass at the end.
Well, he wants to be like the Young Bucks. So he's just leg slapping these
You
days.
heard it here first. Hulk Hogan wants to be the Young Bucks.
So talking of keeping your finger on the pulse, of course, you're huge in the podcasting world. How is the Art of Wrestling podcast going?
The Art of Wrestling podcast available on iTunes. It's good. It's good. Yeah. About 5.5 years now I've been doing it. And, it's not getting old. I love doing it. I love talking to my wrestling friends. Like right now we're on this giant, tour, kind of little mini giant tour of the UK, and that's where this kind of all stems from. It's like I'm doing this constantly, whether it's Japan or Europe or America or Canada. So like I'm in the locker room with the wrestlers, we're having a good time, we're chatting in, so it's easy to just throw a couple mics on and talk about it. So it's still going great, and I'm always really happy like when new people come on that I didn't think for doing it almost 300 episodes, you'd think like, oh, you'd run out of wrestlers. But I mean, I just recently had Too Cold Scorpio on and Dave Taylor, and these are guys that I've wanted to always have on. So like, there's always going to be guys that I want to have on and that are coming on the show.
And you were the first guy to really pioneer the wrestling podcast thing before, Austin and JR, etc. Do you kind of find with like all the other podcasts out there, are you still really excited about doing it every week? And is there any, everybody always asks about dream guests, but like, is there any guest that you're like, I want to have that guy, whether it's a big name, small name, just somebody who you're like, I want to have them on the podcast?
Well, I am excited. It's kind of the same answer. It's like, I thought like maybe my dream guests were done, but like all of a sudden, I've always wanted to have Scorpio on. I've always wanted to have Dave Taylor on. So these guys kind of keep on, popping up. But for me, it's still exciting to do. I know, I was very early, if not the first on the idea of wrestler to wrestler podcasts. But I've like found through that I found my audience. So of course, people are going to go listen to Jericho's and listen to Austin's. Those guys have reached a higher dynamic in the world of wrestling, so they have a higher reach to specific fans. But luckily, I found my fan and my fan. I found my fans and my fan base, and it's not like you're only allowed to listen to one. So it's kind of cool that they can see who they like, or you always get a different. It's always going to be a different dynamic, a different personality when I'm talking to somebody else, as opposed to when somebody else is talking to somebody else. For everything across the board.
And can you just do me one favor with the podcast?
You can't be on. Stop asking.
Can you just promise me that you're never going to adopt the cowbell?
or do weird
Chris sandwiches plugs is the one.
yeah, or do someone was God. My buddy Marty was telling me that like JR's doing like weird, like homophobic, like is this?
I don't listen to the podcast.
Like impressions of like Jim Barnett or something.
He did a 10-minute conversation one week, and it was Stu Hart, Terry Funk, and Jim Barnett.
He's talking to himself.
Accents,
Right.
himself.
And I no, I will not be doing that. It's a promise from me to you.
No Stu Hart impressions coming.
You know, it's funny because a lot of people have done the Stu Hart impression on my show. Yeah, but I'll stay away. I never met the guy.
And obviously, like, you are quite prominent now at the Edinburgh Fringe. It's your thing. You're there. You're doing the shows. Tell us a little bit about that, about how it's kind of going, and you're going to be coming back this year again, and just what you kind of get from that as an experience for the month that you're here.
Yeah, I'm coming back to the Edinburgh Fringe 2016 this year. This is my 4th year doing it. And I love it. It kind of allows me. It says like why I am like diversified in the world of professional wrestling is I'm the only pro wrestler ever to have a full-time Fringe run. You know, who's a full-time pro wrestler at the time. I know Mick's done a show up here, and a couple other wrestlers. You know, the wrestling we do. There is a show called The Wrestling, but I'm doing a full run. You know, 25, 26 shows, and myself and Brendan Burns, Edinburgh Fringe award-winning comedian, we do a show. We put on some weird wrestling and we improv and we riff about it, and it's just it's like everything I love about, I guess, my world. It's comedy, it's wrestling, it's interaction, it's people interaction, it's intimacy. Not the Hulk Hogan style, but there's no wrecking. Although
We'll see how you go in year 7.
Yeah, I was gonna say I probably will be playing the Wrecking Ball video. Although I did play. There's a weird video online of Hulk Hogan taking a crap. Have you seen this one?
No.
And it's just like him on the shitter being like, "What's up, Hulkamaniacs?" And like I tried to play it at the show, and everyone got real weirded out. So I took that one out of the rotation.
And he's apparently in the hospital when he does it, which I don't know what that says.
What?
I know.
Pretending you didn't know.
I've not watched the sex tape, but that's too far.
No, I don't.
'Cause apparently he has like a burrito, and he's like, "Oh, I'm still so."
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
No, no, the walls have come crumbling down. So you're one of the poster guys for people who have really found their fan base on the internet. In your kind of mind, how has the internet changed professional wrestling?
Yeah, I was just talking about this upstairs with a couple of the wrestlers because I'm actually wrestling on a Southside show here coming up in April in the UK. And we were talking about how I was on the poster. It says former WWE superstar. And we were talking about like why you would promote it that way. And I was saying like I'm not against that. Like one of the wrestlers was saying like that discredits everything you've done. That's not what you're known for. But the idea of like back in the day, back when I started, not in the day, 1999, 2000, they wouldn't really, advertise on the internet. It'd be advertising postering town to town, and you'd try to get people to look at the posters and be like, oh, a guy who used to be on WWF, And now it's like, it's almost like we're just advertising on the internet because the reach is even better than going on a tree outside by the venue, you know what I'm saying? So like, I think that's the way is that before wrestling fans would complain like, oh, you're just, or I'm saying before promoters or wrestlers would be like, you're just promoting on the internet, no one's coming. And now it's like, oh, you're promoting on the internet, everyone's coming.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of a big way I've seen the internet change. But also I'm able to reach out to anyone, anytime. I'm able to reach out to all of my fans. It's just when I first started, I went from little town to little town. And I credit that's the success of my wrestling podcast is because I started going little town, making fans in every single town, one at a time, one handshake at a time, one fan at a time. And then all of a sudden, when I started this thing on the internet, like I had built up that many people, and that's just something I guess you really technically don't need to do. You do need to go from little town to little town to learn wrestling and to learn how to do it. But to build that fan base, the little towns everyone's connected by this one thing, so it's really great.
I mean, we don't want to talk WWE too much, but do you think, because you were like a ring veteran before you went to WWE, but do you think it's a major weakness of the company that as soon as you walk in the WWE doors, no matter your experience, I mean, it's changing now with NXT, but before that, you're a rookie, even if you've done what you guys have done.
It's unbelievably changing now, and you don't want to have a career of like, oh, if I was only, you can't live of like, if I only was where I was now.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And essentially that's what it is. Like, guys like, I'm trying to think who, Kevin Owens is a perfect example. If you put Kevin Owens in my situation, he's just shipped down to OVW and made fun of for being an independent wrestler, and now it's celebrated. So, maybe that's them being a little bit late on the internet or realizing the impact that the internet wrestling fan has.
Yeah.
But I can't knock them for, you know, they're their own thing, they're their own machine. It is what it is, and that's why I'm staying away, from talking about it, I guess. But I enjoy the idea of I'm an independent person, I'm an alternative, and that's my world. That like I like staying in the alternative world because it's where I feel I belong and I'm able to make the most impact.
I find it interesting. We spoke to Magnus last night, and I was talking.
Stop bragging.
So yeah, thanks for watching. So we spoke to Magnus, and something that I think is really fascinating about wrestling is that it's a business, but as soon as you treat it like one, people are like, wait a minute, and he was talking a lot about how you need to make sure that you're getting a good deal for yourself, and if somebody's going to offer you less money, like why would you do that? You want to get as much as you can. And how do you feel about that? Because obviously, like being an independent contractor and doing what you do, you really do need to look out for yourself in that way. Do you feel that there is a backlash from some people about when you start to sort of just make business sense that people can't understand why you would?
I mean, yeah, this is a business, but this is based off of the carnival. Like, it's such a carny thing, and like, it's just nothing in wrestling makes sense. And you look at the way, these guys are. The WWE wrestlers are independent contractors, like it's just, it all stems from that, of how the wrestlers are treated. So like independent wrestlers will never be treated, with any kind of real sanity or like respect, So in that sense, like, yeah, it is kind of like a dog eat dog world, but I think of it in different ways, like I'm not trying to always like get the best, the most money out of these guys or whatever. Like I enjoy having a good rapport with promoters and putting in, working for a fair rate, knowing that, coming in, like I'll be able to bring my fans because I'll promote it on my podcast. It's really, I feel I've built up a different situation almost for myself because, not only like I have a nice Twitter following, but I also have this nice podcast following where I can promote the show weekly to the, so I can bring my fans. It's not just, hey, book me, and then, hey, you're the promoter. A lot of people work that way. Like, they're like, you're the promoter, get those butts in the seats. And, I feel it's like I'm doing my duty, and I'm doing, as a wrestler, like, I'm telling the promoters, like, hey, I'm a good deal, because not only do you get like a really good wrestler, I like to think, but then all of a sudden I'm promoting it and I'm pushing it, and I have a YouTube show that's trying to promote the show, and then I'm bringing in the fans that I'm, every week. So then with those fans, I get to sell them merchandise, and that's my money, and then I get to do some podcasts, and then it all kind of like it's just all revolving thing. So I want to. For me, it's almost like a different business sense. It is all business minded, but wrestlers think in different. Wrestlers have different business acumen.
Do you think, like you talk about, like a dog eat dog world? Do you think wrestling will ever unionize? If there's been like pushes for that in the past?
No.
No.
Here's what I said. I said because I do think the independent contractor thing is brutal. And those guys telling them that they have to have health insurance or else they won't be able to wrestle is completely illegal. And it won't. Nothing will change unless like an ESPN or This American Life or a public radio or somebody comes hard on them and really shows what's happening. Until then, no, because John Cena's not going to say it. Like, he's the guy to do it, but he's not. He's living a good life, and no, I guess he shouldn't say. It's the same thing with the Hulk Hogan and the Jesse Ventura. It's not like I was there. Yeah. Allegedly, I have to say allegedly. So John Cena allegedly would have to do something, and I'm not in his shoes. I don't know what's going on, but I don't think so.
And do you kind of look at like past your wrestling career eventually? Do you kind of think you'd like to get into other aspects of wrestling? Have you thought about that recently in terms? Cause I know before you talked about potentially commentary and things like that. And where does your mind kind of sit with that at the moment?
Well, right now, I just sold a podcast series to Howl, which is owned by Scripps, which is owned by Earwolf. So there's a lot of different opportunities going on, and obviously I've helped start this company called Pro Wrestling Tees, where we're helping the wrestlers make money. So obviously I'm already kind of diving into other aspects of wrestling. So it's just a matter. To be honest, I could probably easily transition out of the ring right now if I wanted to. But I want to do this till I'm my 60s. To be honest, like.
You're a bit of a wrestling nomad. Is there any promotion that feels like home? Like, let's say hypothetically, obviously, touch wood, you have to retire. Just hypothetically, which promotion would you want to give that retirement match to?
Yeah, it's weird. Right now, like I feel like I did 4 tours of Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan this year. Almost 3 months there. And I don't have a home promotion. For years it was Ring of Honor and then WWE, and that's one of the sad things is that like I love that aspect of it, and I know a lot of people will always talk about this feud 10 years ago I had with Homicide, where people saw like a darker side of me, and you got to see a little bit of it with Kevin Steen, with me and Generico versus Kevin Steen and Steve Corino in Ring of Honor. But now, I'm kind of like, I consider myself like the stand-up comedian going from club to club to club, where I don't really have that home promotion. So I do like the idea of a home promotion, because that's where you can start getting into deeper storylines, and but for now it's just come see the Colt Cabana show here, I'm traveling there. So if anywhere I would say Pro Wrestling Noah, but I do there's promotions in America like AIW in Cleveland and Beyond Wrestling in in Providence or in Massachusetts, and AAW in Chicago. Like I have a lot of these companies, PWS in New Jersey, that I wrestle for a lot. So there's a lot of like it's a sporadic number of home promotions.
We should talk a little bit before we let you go about your bromance with Grado. It started a couple of years ago. You two have been going strong ever since. It just, when you look at it on paper and you think Colt Cabana from Chicago, Grado from Stevenston, the two of you together, but it just works.
I love the name. The name is
the Iron Jew. Yeah. And we just filmed the Wrestling Road Diaries 3 with Kikutaro, and I can't wait for that to come out. First of all, because I don't know anytime other in the world where we would all be in the same place. The number one Japanese comedy wrestler, number one Scottish comedy wrestler, the number one Chicagoan comedy wrestler. I don't want to brag, I'm pretty big in Chicago. So yeah, I was trying to explain him to some friends, because he's one of these guys who will just pester you with questions. And usually you'd be like, ugh, get this guy away from me. But he's so charming. I could listen to him. I would answer questions for him for like hours on end. Like I'd be happy to. And I see it and I get it and I love it. And so like gratefully, he also, I think, sees it, gets it, and loves it with me too. So that's kind of where that comes off. And
it's funny still, like when he's on The Art of Wrestling, like when he was on during the Fringe, and still to this day he'll say full sentences and things, and you go, I didn't get any of that.
I'm pretty good at speaking Grado. I'll be honest. I'm pretty good, because he was messaging me, and I played it for like my friends and my mom, and they'd be like, I have no clue. And I was like, you didn't understand that? And I understood it. So I'm pretty good. And
if you want to see Grado and Colt on YouTube, there's him meeting you at Edinburgh Airport a few years ago. We hadn't met him yet, and he had a little sign for you. That was quite sweet.
Yeah, and it's kind of taken off, and it was on, that transition to the BBC documentary where, that whole thing was a big part of it, the Insane Fight Club. But Colt Cabana, It's Yourself has become a thing in its own. Colt Cabana, It's Yourself. Like, whenever people chant, even when I'm in America and I just hear Colt Cabana, like a little bit of me in my head's like, It's Yourself.
Well, we hope the bromance continues for a long time. Thanks very much for coming and talking to us.
Yeah.
And we'll see you soon. And thanks for watching.
Well, I'm sleeping at your house tonight, so.
As always. Anytime he's here, he's
got
sleeping in my house.
Sleeping bag. Could I say out of ma?
Yeah. Oh, maybe. We'll see.